I'm Carol Bacak-Egbo, historian for Oakland County Parks. Join me now for an episode of History in Our Parks.
One frock coat, 4 cowbells, and 6 fancy chairs. A Waterford Oaks County Park story. The land that became Waterford Oaks has a long history. Waterford Oaks is part of Section 13 of Waterford Township. That land was surveyed by Samuel Carpenter in 1817. In making his map, he drew and labeled the Saginaw Trail, a significant Native American trail. The fact that that trail runs right through Section 13 makes it highly likely that there was a Native American presence in the area. In addition, the first people to purchase land in Section 13 talked about a Native American family who lived near them on the banks of Silver Lake. Those two early settlers were Oliver and Mary Williams. They were from Roxbury, Massachusetts, which is right outside Boston. Oliver was a merchant there, selling hats and later a variety of goods. In 1808, Oliver Williams decided to expand his business to the Michigan Territory. He purchased goods in Boston and then took them overland to Buffalo, New York, and then by ship across Lake Erie and up the Detroit River to Detroit. In the winter and spring of 1810-1811, he had a sloop built at the River Rouge shipyard. He called his ship the Friends' Goodwill. Interestingly, someone has built a full-size replica of that ship, and it sails out of South Haven every summer. During the War of 1812, Williams was using the sloop to move trading goods between Detroit and Mackinac Island. But during the war, his ship was taken by the British and he became a prisoner of war. When the war was over, he was released and he returned to Detroit, where he ran a hotel and boarding house right here at the corner of Jefferson and Bates. His family had remained in Roxbury all this time, but that changed in 1815. In 1815, the family traveled to Buffalo with a team of 4 horses, pulling a covered wagon and a carriage. Then a sailing ship across Lake Erie. But Oliver did not accompany his family. It was his wife, Mary, who brought the children to the Michigan Territory. There were 8 children. The oldest, Ephraim, was only 13. And the youngest, Harriet, was less than a year old. The family settled into Detroit. Oliver had several businesses, including the Globe Tavern. Around 1818, like many Detroiters, Oliver Williams got interested in the land outside Detroit. In particular, the land that in 1820 would officially become Oakland County. By 1818, a small settlement called Pontiac had started, where the Saginaw Trail met the Clinton River. By 1819, the Williams family had purchased 320 acres of land in Section 13 of what would become Waterford Township. The land was right along the Saginaw Trail, and it was on the banks of Silver Lake. Later on, the southern part of their farm would become part of Waterford Oaks County Park. With his sons, Oliver cleared the land, and then with the help of oxen, they planted their first crop, 6 acres of wheat. But Oliver Williams did more than farm. He used his house as a trading post. It was made of logs and large, 50 feet long and 20 feet wide, much larger than the typical log cabin in the territory of Michigan. With his sons, He bought hides and furs, honey and wax from Native Americans in the area, and then took them to Detroit, where he traded them for more goods. Oliver Williams became well known in the area. Many early settlers reported stopping by the Williams homestead on the way to their own land. When Alexis de Tocqueville traveled to the United States, he visited Michigan, and while in Michigan, he visited Oliver Williams. We'd been advised to look up a Mr. Williams, who had long traded with the Chippewa. He received us warmly. Oliver Williams died on October 11th, 1834, at the age of 60, and is buried in Oak Hill Cemetery in Pontiac. His son Benjamin was named executor of his estate, and sadly Benjamin reported, "The estate is insolvent and insufficient to pay the just debts." Oliver Williams had died in debt. As a result, an inventory was made of all his belongings, which among other things included 1 horse cart and harness, 1 frock coat, 4 cowbells, and 6 fancy chairs. His belongings were sold and his debts were paid. In the end, there was only $164.01 left for his widow, Mary. Mary lived out her remaining years at the Hodges House, a large hotel in Pontiac, which was owned by her daughter Mary and her son-in-law, Schuler Hodges. Mary Williams died on April 1st, 1860, at the age of 83, and is buried in Oak Hill Cemetery in Pontiac, near her husband. In reporting her death, the Pontiac Gazette wrote, "Her kindness and courtesy to the early settlers won their esteem, and none made her acquaintance who did not become her friends." I think it's fair to say that they would have said the same thing about her husband, Oliver. And that's a reminder that we can't measure someone by the things they leave behind. Like 1 frock coat, 4 cowbells, and 6 fancy chairs.